Okay, so metal.
Metal.
The show's about metal.
What is metal? We're going to spread the hidden value in music.
We're going to proselytize. We're going to get the word out there.
We are.
That's important.
Oh, welcome back to the Great Metal Podcast, episode 26. I am the Metal Evangelist Luke, and I am here with Shredmaster Scott and just Pete. And this is the first episode of our second season. We took a little hiatus there. And this season,
In black. I'm in black, you're in black, Pete's in black. It's triple black.
Total black. Dude, this season is going to be so extreme. We're actually going to start talking on the topic of extreme metal. That's it, man.
Perfect place to
Guys,
start.
check it out. I'm going to fall into complete blackness. Whoa.
Oh,
man.
that's a black hole. That's
So
a
I
black,
just- what?
black hole despair.
I'm like
black.
I'm black on white. Yeah, Shred's black on
I got
white
too
too.
much white in my background too. We got to blacken it up.
Yeah, where are you
Yeah.
guys? In like heaven or something?
Well, yeah, you guys may notice that we're all in separate locations now. So we're repping I don't know, pretty much the entire country.
We're all in various planes of hell. I'm of course in the 9th plane of hell. You guys are there too, right? You're somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
Somewhere.
I'm in purgatory maybe.
I think
okay.
you know where I am. I'm in that sweet new building that we built that Matthew Korn's put in his comic. Did you guys see the third panel of the comic?
Dude, no, I saw the first panel and
No, I didn't see this.
Oh,
Yeah.
get on there. Panels 2 and 3 are up, and in panel 3 we build a palace like right between a couple other churches, and but ours is like bigger and better. And
I can't wait. I just cannot wait to see. I saw that first one that he posted, and I'm like, this is so exciting. No better way to start 2021 than getting more into the Great Metal Podcast comic.
For sure. So extreme metal. That is the topic of today's cast.
Oh, dude, yes, super extreme. Well, it's really interesting because there are so many genres of metal out there today. And a lot of people think of, people that aren't into metal, they think all metal is extreme, right? But then if you're into metal, you can go to an extreme within metal. So, it's like, how did this whole thing go? What is extreme metal? Is that its own genre? Whatnot. So that's what we want.
It takes a lot of education these days. We were just talking about this to know about everything that's going on in metal because it's become such an enormously diverse genre. And actually, we should mention too, Alexi Laiho, of course, R.I.P. and extreme metal. He does fit into that category, I would say, because he's got very heavy vocals. But then it's more melodic too. But he's influenced a lot of up and coming acts and players, and only 41 years old. We still don't know the cause of death, but it's been about 2 weeks now. So, Children of Bottom lead singer, guitar player Alexi Laiho, R.I.P.
Yeah, no, that is a real blow. 41. You look at guys like Mick Jagger. He's still making music. To lose a guy like Laiho there, that's a blow to the scene.
To be fair, I feel like Mick Jagger looks about 30 years older than he is, though.
That is true. He's got to be like 70s.
Yeah. No, he's genuinely getting old now, but I feel like he's looked old for a while.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, kind of like wrinkly face.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
But him and Keith
the
Richards, those blood transfusions that they get, I think those go a long ways. From Young Maidens, taken directly from Young Maiden. So,
oh gosh,
that's the key.
Yeah, that's the secret. So I guess straight into the topic, huh?
Well, so I mean, this is a huge topic. We would love to get a conversation started on this one with everybody listening, even after the fact, whatever, or during the live stream. But I mean, it's so big. And here's the thing, when I started diving in, doing some research, like everybody's got their own take on which band really pushed it over the line into extreme, and
what extreme metal,
what is extreme. And so, but I'll tell you, a fantastic documentary is done by Banger TV.
This is good.
And I for the life of me, I'm drawing a blank on what it's actually called. I think it's called like The Origins of Extreme Metal or something like that. Do you know what the title of it is, Shred?
I'll look it up.
It's good. I've watched this. This guy does good work, honestly.
He does.
Banger TV.
Is it Metal Evolution? Extreme
Metal Evolution. There you go. Yeah. And he makes a point at the beginning of the documentary where he says, I've been doing metal research and interviews and for years and years and years and years, and I've got whatever it was, 40 hours of video and interviews. And he's like, but I tried to look up what's going on with the underground extreme metal scene. And he's like, there's nothing out there, out there. And it's true. It's truly like an underground thing today. But it exploded metal into all of these different things. So, we've talked a lot of
point, Luke, right there. This was sort of like the Genesis seed point that really caused a lot of diversity in metal. It caused like the harmonization of punk metal, which brought the speed. It increased the tempo and the aggression. And we're talking like, what would you say? Like extreme metal started, let's say, in like early 80s when it really started like pick up a little bit, early to mid 80s.
Yeah. So I mean, like general consensus, maybe not, I won't say consensus, but a lot of people attribute the band Venom as, birthing this scene. Now they're not nearly as extreme as where it went, right? But like, I listen to a lot of death metal. I don't listen to a ton of black metal, but I'm like, well, okay, I mean, death metal is extreme, right? But is that extreme metal? What is it? So,
right. What are the components? What's the criteria that puts you in the extreme metal category? That's the question, right? What are we really saying when we say extreme metal? What does that mean?
That's right. What?
Because you got to remember, in the 80s, that was like heavy metal at that time. That was most of what you're hearing that's associated with metal. But these sort of acts like Venom came out and they started having like a more aggressive vocal delivery, So that's maybe one of the aspects.
I think this could be what really defines metal. Oh, we got everybody. We got everybody good there.
Just got rolled.
Okay. Oh boy, I got to tell you, I was not expecting that.
Yeah,
I love the moves at the beginning there.
The moves are good.
He's 100% in. He's just like, feeling himself so much.
Yeah, and the trench coat. A good Rickroll is always appreciated.
If it was black, then it'd be more metal. But
we should do like an edit of it where we like Photoshop corpse paint on him.
And if he could get like more neck width, hit us with that neck. It's all about the thickness.
Is unreal neck.
Look at that. Like, what do you have to do to get a neck like that?
I'll tell you what you got to do. You don't sell your soul to Satan. You sell your neck. And then Satan beefs it up.
Satan beefs it right up. That's what it is. 666 girth.
That is impressive. It's like his neck is wider than his head.
Yeah,
it's like a pyramid.
I'm actually genuinely curious how George Fisher, the lead singer of Cannibal Corpse, got a neck with that much girth. I think it's probably like like headbanging exercises, maybe. I'm just
Banging
speculating,
exercise.
but, you know,
I love
Maybe.
it.
I don't know
Yeah.
how he did it, but
Back to the serious note of, we were talking about like what defines this, extreme metal. And I do think like you were getting into vocals there a little bit. And we're talking about necks where your vocals reside.
Good tie-in. That's a great tie-in there.
But
Pete.
yeah, I
Really.
know. I think obviously I when we were thinking about this topic, I was saying like I think grunting is, certainly, that harsh vocal is something that is very
abandoning
unique.
melody.
Yeah.
Abandoning melody in the vocal delivery, but then the instrumentation, which Pete, you were bringing this up before, tends to carry the melody more. Like you hear it maybe in the guitars or, sometimes in keyboards.
So before we dive into that, let's I've got a clip here from the documentary we were just talking about called Metal Evolution, clip 1, Pete. And this is kind of where he began his research. So let's see what he has to say.
Extreme metal is a term that covers a number of metal styles, including death metal, grindcore, doom metal, the first wave of black metal, Norwegian black metal, Swedish extreme metal, and more. Building on the sound of thrash, these styles ramped up metal's speed and complexity. But there's a question about extreme metal that I've long wanted to answer. How is there so much diversity in a genre that to most people sounds like noise?
Awesome.
See, you listen to that and you're like, yeah, that's extreme metal. But then it's like, well, what about that makes it extreme metal, right? And so this guy, he goes in. I mean, it's about an hour-long documentary, and he interviews, all the top names, the guys from Slayer and Venom and Celtic Frost, all of those guys, and it's funny because everybody kind of has like their own definition of what it is. Even the guys in the genre are like, well, to me, extreme metal is this. And the next guy's like, well, to me, extreme metal is this, which is slightly different, but there's certainly commonalities. So
I thought the diversity side that you said, how is there so much diversity in something that sounds just like noise to a lot of people? I thought that was interesting. It's sort of like how is there diversity in like red wine, right? You could easily just say, well, red, because I feel like wine diversity, it's a little bit more subtle in a certain way. Like red and white are very different, but the different reds, if you're a connoisseur, you notice the differences. But if you're not a connoisseur, it's like red wine. Yeah.
Right. It's like that with anything, not just extreme metal. Like if you're not into jazz, all jazz sounds the same. If you're not into pop, all pop sounds the same. So it's just I guess with the nuance.
The point there is that I think that jazz is a good example too. It's like all jazz sounds the same if you're not into it, but jazz, there's enough of what makes it jazz that everybody is like, oh, most people could identify it as jazz, but then they would think it's all jazz, right? You play them 5 clips of different types of jazz. They're just like jazz. Oh yeah. So there's still a commonality, and in extreme metal, it's the same thing. What is the commonality that brings them together while there's all this diversity too?
Yeah. Well, because I think part of the point he was trying to make is that, there are a lot of subgenres that are under this umbrella term of extreme metal, right? Mm-hmm. We'll talk about it here in a minute. But like death metal and black metal really came out of the exact same bands, and then they kind of those two genres diverged in the late in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, and then they each went down their own path and really developed dozens of other subgenres. But it's really interesting, like this birth of black or of extreme metal. Like we said, a lot of people attribute it to Venom. And so it's like going back, it's like, well, what did Venom do differently than, the forebears? Yeah. And so because we've talked about it before. Black Sabbath is really considered the fathers of metal, and then of course Judas Priest was very inspirational when it came to the guys that started the more extreme metal genres. But what's really interesting is when you get to Venom, they changed not just the sound by pushing it more extreme, but the themes, the thematic content. They really changed it. And so there's a clip of the lead singer of Venom, and he explains, Pete, it's called Venom Explains Their Strategy.
I got that.
He explains kind of like how and why they started pushing the envelope so much from previous bands. So let's listen to that.
You had Black Sabbath and Black Widow and all these other people, but they still really weren't stuffing it in people's faces the way we did. The pentagram and all that kind of stuff really hadn't been seen before that.
So was the primary objective for Venom to shock people?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just to stick it in their faces and say, right, there you go, what do you think of that?
That's a great clip. Yeah, because, in Black Sabbath, the crosses were right side up, normal crosses. And then when you get to Venom, it became inverted,
Well, and what's...
another thing I read about that was in the lyrical content, which you started talking about, Luke, with Black Sabbath, they were talking about some pretty twisted shit. But when it came to Venom, Venom was like, no. Satan's not just a topic here. He's the protagonist, right?
Right.
He's the hero. So this was like a psychological shift. And it really demanded a different thing from the listener, to listen to Venom. You had to be on board with that, which was extreme,
That's right. No, it one article I read, it talked about how they would look at literature like Faust and Paradise Lost, and the Christian protagonist, the Christian antagonist, Satan, is now the protagonist, like you just said. And so and then they were blatant about it. Like I said, he's like, the whole point was to shock people and punch them in the face with this evil. Right. So like extreme metal, the birth of it really went from, the physical imagery was like, Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. They're wearing like jean jackets with spikes on them. And then when you got to extreme metal, it was like T-shirts with pentagrams on them. Right. So there was like this physical shift.
Doing Judas Priest did the spikes, I guess. I don't know if
they were big into denim.
Before you get away from one thing you said, I thought was really interesting is this idea of the kind of the anti-hero. This is interesting because this started as something that was different, although the anti-hero has been like a thing in pop culture recently, like has come to the fore in a lot of mediums where it never was before. You were always rooting for the good, so to speak. But I mean, you think of like what's Daredevil? That's
the actor
Marvel. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What the heck? It's not called Daredevil, is it?
There's Daredevil, that he is one of the Marvel heroes.
No, the guy that's like, he's like a kind of an anti-hero. He gets all burned and like in a, maybe that. Am I talking about Daredevil?
Daredevil's blind.
Nope, I'm talking about the guy that is like really crass and he's like burned. Deadpool. Yeah. Oh man, boy. Sometimes your brain just fails you. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, he's like an anti-hero, right? In a certain sense. Sure. Like you always think the hero's got it all together and is great, but like here's Deadpool he's coming from a revenge angle and he's like,
see, that's the brutal thing. That's with the anti-hero is maybe more relatable because he has flaws. He's out for revenge, like Pete said. And that's something that, we can really relate to.
Well, I didn't realize we were going to go down this route, but if we want to, this is very relevant because that's so in literary terms, or in terms of the literary arc, you had, classical literature, and then you had the modernist literature, which the modernist literature was really born out of like World War I, right? It was this disillusionment with Nazism and all this kind of stuff. And people were, particularly in classical literature moving forward, the idea was you want your protagonist to be better than you because it gives you something to strive for, right? So you didn't want your protagonist to be relatable. Postmodernism, after World War II, once those bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was like people they lost a sense of humanity. And so postmodernism came along and said, we're just too confused by everything going on. We don't that guy in the sky that we can try to be like, we can't be like him. So we're not even interested anymore. So then you had the birth of this superhero or this anti-hero in literature. It caught on in films in like much later, like the late 90s.
It's fascinating.
I'm saying even more recently is when we're seeing more of the anti-hero, and I was saying maybe the extreme metal was a forebearer topically for that kind of push for an anti-hero in modern culture.
I love that theory.
You're 100% right. No, you're dead nuts on, because when you're looking at like Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, a lot of the stuff they were talking about is like postmodernist stuff, but it all related largely to like communism. It was like the Cold War, right? And so everybody was afraid of getting nuked back in the 70s. And today nobody's afraid of getting nuked. But what happened is it went from this like existential threat to Venom coming along and saying, maybe we are the existential threat, right? It's not like a bomb is going to drop and kill me. It's like, I'm just going to like embrace my own wicked destiny and I'm going to kill everybody else. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're 100% right. There was this thematic shift that came about because of like world politics between the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
That influences culture and what art is accepted. So like getting into this, do we, where do we start? Do we have a Venom clip?
I do, but
or Hellhammer,
but what I'd like to do is let's listen to 3 clips, kind of like in succession. I was going to put these all into one clip, Pete. I apologize, I did not. But sorry, let's listen to just how the sound evolved. So there's an Iron Maiden clip, and then Venom came into play right after Iron Maiden. I mean, they were going concurrently, but they were kind of born out of that idea. And then Venom took it in this more extreme way. And then we'll listen to what today is considered probably as far extreme as you can go, a band called Anal Vomit. So if you want to just play those 3 back to back, you'll get a good idea of how this sound changed from, the late 70s to today. Got some nice rhythm going on there, some nice harmony.
Hallowed be thy name, bro. I love that song.
So then we move into Venom, and there's a little more extreme direction.
Notice the vocal quality change here.
Yeah, that's what I picked up first.
And it's more, the guitar is more dissonant, rougher.
Well, I think the bass is even distorted.
Yeah.
The bass does sound distorted.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that was much of a thing before bands like that. So right, it's a distorted guitar, of course, started with like the Kinks, and splitting the speaker cone, but then Like now it's like bass too is distorted. For some
Yeah,
reason,
you want
Yeah.
to make
didn't
this
get to that until
this really dissonant sound. And then it at some point it just got too extreme. Here's anal vomit.
Nobody wants crap. It's
Now-
like,
that's aggressive.
yeah, it's a funny name because it's like, why would you want to be like, I'm just shitting it out?
vomiting?
Yeah, yeah. This is the shit
Oh,
we
we all
came out
tell our
with.
worst food poisoning stories. Luke?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But I mean, so you can see like the you had Iron Maiden, which actually Iron Maiden has some good harmonization going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually and it's I don't know what
Iron
the
Maiden is
musical
like
terms are.
guitar orchestration. They got 3 effing guitar players. Yeah. So you got all these lines that you can do, that you couldn't do before. Gorgeous orchestration.
Well, and I mean, it actually, it's very pleasing to the ear to listen to them.
Yeah, that's true. Like all the harmonies are diatonic thirds, which means they're in the key. They're not trying to like mess with your ears. Whereas a band like Anal Vomit is just trying to sound dissonant and disturbing. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. That's the whole point. Exactly. And so Venom still had, I mean, it was a good rhythm they had going on there. It wasn't like excessively just disgusting noise. But they darkened it up a little bit. I don't know if you could tell us from the clip, Shred, but it was like definitely sounded more like minor key than maybe what Iron Maiden was doing.
Like very little of metal just in general is in major keys. That's uncommon for sure.
Yeah, but they were maybe using some like, minor seconds, maybe. I don't know, but it was like there wasn't as much like, movement. It was much closer. And then, and then he went into that more of like a growly voice.
Yeah.
Like that. Try to make it sound evil.
Right. Yeah, it's not like all the way. It's not like George Fisher, Corpse Grinder, thick neck.
No.
But it's like a transitory stage. It's in between somewhere, between the clean and fully distorted.
Right. Exactly. Like they didn't go like grunting. Grunting hadn't, found its heyday yet. But one of the Morbid Angel, he had a really interesting way of defining extreme metal. And we got a clip of that. So let's check out what he said.
Extreme music is for extreme people. There's a lot of notes, there's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of fury, and it's fast. I mean, those are some key components to it, and then that's not for everyone. I mean, it's not easy listening. I can't imagine your average sort of white bread housewife doing laundry and then listening to, Blasphemy of the Holy Ghost. I mean, I don't hear that.
Yeah. and that's another great point. Like what, who is the extreme metal person fan? Like, is there something genetically different about us? Like what's going on? We're weird people.
That is the eternal mystery. What is it? I grew up in a very conservative, Midwestern, spent some time on the coast when I was young, but, in the Midwest, I mean, why am I drawn to metal? I love a lot of extreme metal. I'm not a fan of Anal Vomit, but I love metal. I actively seek out heavier, faster, more aggressive stuff.
Yeah.
My brothers don't. And so, it's like, what is it? And, Shred, we've talked about this before, and you made the point, there's like this element of escapism. I think that's true. I mean, I think everybody's trying to, find the supernatural, find how they connect to the universe in a larger way. But why are some people drawn to things, that produce positive feelings like romantic comedies or something like that, romance novels, and then other people are drawn to the darkness. Is that the genetic component? I don't know.
Could be part of it for sure.
Yeah.
We
Just
may
Pete.
never know.
Just Pete.
Yeah.
What is it about extreme metal that draws you in?
Yeah, that's I think, well, okay, this is a good segue because I think that you need to, for me, I wouldn't say extreme metal was where like I started listening to metal. It's the other thing, like I didn't start drinking beer with like double
rock,
IPAs.
right?
Yeah, I was more classic rock. And I got into a little bit of metal, and then definitely more melodic stuff. I don't know. I think it's like that. There's a progression to it. I would say probably most people don't jump into like the heavy stuff right out of the gate. Would be my guess. So what?
Vincent?
It depends on who you're like. That's exactly what I did. I went
Yeah.
straight into the deep end. The very first music I was listening to was like Meshuggah and Fear Factory. And actually, even before that, I started with Christian metal because that was all my parents would allow me to get,
But
so I had to go like under the table to get the real stuff.
Was that
for me, man? Like I instantly felt the power of the extreme metal, and that's just I think that's the genetic part. Like for me, I've just always been like a turned up guy, and it just made sense for me. But I think for a lot of people, it's maybe more like your journey, where it's like more of a transition, from here to classic rock. Then you got into a little bit heavier stuff, a little bit heavier, and then before you know it, you're all the way into extreme metal.
Well, but I think it's like much like we listen to the progression of things, right? And there's years there that we jump through in a short time window. I think like a lot of times, if you find something you like for instance, like I listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin, and I loved like the bluesy aspects of it, but I also love the tone, right, and the grit of the guitars and stuff. So you find something you like, and then it's like a lot of times, at least, maybe that's the personality part. Like I like pushing the envelope a little bit. So then I'm like, okay, where do you go heavier from here? But then there's already stuff, so you can advance a lot quicker. Like if you lived in Led Zeppelin's heyday, then it's like you didn't know where it could go. So it took all the years to develop that. But if you're just the listener, you pick it up, you're like, okay, well, what's next, right? And when you benefit from like the next has happened, and you can like journey along with it.
Did you say neck, Pete, or
the
neck?
The neck has happened.
Thickness. We need some more thickness.
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm serious. What we need to get Corpse Grinder on the show and ask him about his neck game.
I think
zero chin. Like he's just. It's
the question though. Is it no chin or all head, no neck?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I'm seeing neck personally, but I guess people see different things.
But I guess what the other thing about this is, does he that we talk about genetics, like there might be some genetics involved with that.
No question.
Definitely some genetics.
Yeah.
Too. Hey, well, we're going to talk about Cannibal Corpse, right? Or Luke, do you have it in the outline? We could just show that some Cannibal Corpse now, because I had that great clip. You see that one with the bass clarinet, Pete?
Yeah.
Bass clarinet. It's so good. You guys see that? Hammer
I have not seen
bass clarinet. It's incredible.
It's going to be a world premiere for me.
Let's take a listen. Wow.
Look at the guy in the background. He's just he's just taking it. Like,
that's what I was going to say.
He was
I've always had like a big crush on the bass clarinet for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's because of Igor Stravinsky and the Rite of Spring. But it's such a cool sound, and hear him play death metal with that, that just makes my day.
Yeah, you would have been like in the back, like putting stuff in the guy on the couch. You would have been like, "Whoa, yeah!"
Yeah, we've been into it. Front row seat,
Yeah.
front row seat, you know.
The guy in the back, yeah, he'd either heard it many times before or was not
think-
impressed.
Yeah, I get the sense they're like college roommates or something. And this guy's been working on this piece all semester. That guy's just back there, like taking it every day.
I saw it might have been Herman Lee's a reaction video he did, but it was a YouTube video. It was a chick playing Through the Fire and the Flames on the harp. But, she's not doing the tremolo picking that, he's actually doing on the guitar. So she's just hitting they'd probably be like the quarter notes instead of like.
I mean, it'd be
30-second
hard.
notes.
It'd be hard to do that on harp, unless you tuned all the strings to like one pitch and they just went boom, did a glissando.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did them all that way. I don't know.
You'd have to be like a little raccoon or something with your little fingers.
It'd be very.
Oh,
dexterous.
man.
Getting your little.
Like John Myung, they call him the octopus.
The
'cause he plays
octopus,
with-
yeah.
with
Dude,
all
we could
8
do a
fingers.
show on best metal basis. I just had that idea. It's a good idea.
So
Yeah.
I think
totally.
that the question is then, so we had Venom, kind of taking it to the next level. We went to Anal Vomit, which was kind of too extreme, perhaps to be enjoyable. What else do we have here in extreme metal?
Well, there's a
Well,
lot
so-
in between. I mean, we went from the beginning to the end, but then let's fill in the gaps a little bit.
That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, so what really happened was, extreme metal was born out of this idea, like David Vincent said there. He's like, extreme metal's for extreme people. Like, it's for people that like pushing the boundaries, right? So, Pete, you like the blues. Well, how far can you take the blues? And so, I mean, that's what metal did. And so throughout the 80s, that's how death metal was born, right? And whether you say it was the band Death or one of the other contenders that people argue over, they're all like, let's ramp up the distortion. Let's ramp up. That's where the grunting came from. They took Venom's growl and said, we can growl more extreme. Let's get into grunting. And so, they pushed the extreme. Well, interestingly enough, this was interesting to me because I'm a big fan of Death and not as much of Black, is really in the mid 80s, you had this split. And so death metal went off and formed all these subgenres like, doom and, the melodic death and all of that kind of stuff. Black metal went off and went more for like the speed. So in my thought process, it's like death is more about orchestration. It can be fast, it can be slow, but it's more about the harmony and the melody. Whereas Black is less about that and more about just like this technical speed.
Depends because early black metal, yes, but then it started to become, bands like Dimmu Borgir, right? And Emperor, those bands are more like incorporating orchestral elements, and melodic stuff.
They did
came a little bit later.
Right. And because again, they pushed it to an extreme and then they're like, where do we go from here? And so now they're like adding things in.
Yeah.
They're working to make it more extreme all the time, which is what's so cool about metal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love, that orchestral element in metal. I just think it fits really well.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
And that orchestral element, the kind of I don't know if we want to talk about some of the other clips we have here. I know we have a Insomnium clip, and they're kind of a good one that brings a lot of the melody in
let's do that.
to the metal. And that would definitely be like a high pick for me, a band like this, Insomnium. Yeah,
Oh,
I just
heavy
It's
AF.
so heavy, so dense, so fast, and yet still so melodic.
but that's the
Yeah,
thing
but not
that
vocals, just in the instrumentation.
that's what makes you
Sure.
feel like you can track along. Like I'm not necessarily singing, but like I'm like sitting there with the like following the guitar along, like do 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 do. Like it's just like because it gives you something that's easy to catch with,
Latch
and
on to, yeah.
but I love the contrast of it too. Is great.
Here's the thing though with good grunting is it's true that the pitch stays relatively the same, but it's also not completely mono, or maybe it's monotone but the pitch moves. I don't know the technical definition here, but what the idea is, if you listen to like Anal Vomit or this other band Chainsaw Dissection, it's all one sound. It never moves at all. It's it's like that, right? Whereas the grunting of good metal bands like Insomnium or Draconian, they move. It gets bigger, it gets smaller, it'll get higher, it'll get a little lower. So it certainly doesn't have the same tonal range as someone singing clearly and cleanly. But it's also not just like a blast of air.
One sound, yeah.
It's not just one sound. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Which I think is cool. So
Yeah.
anyway, so
now it's like I don't know if we have any. I don't think we have any examples of this. But if you get into like metalcore, there's like that sort of monk overtone singing where you're getting sort of almost like these two different pitches with your voice.
Yeah.
And we were checking this out when we did our metal breakdowns. But that is like, that's very interesting. I mean, who would have thought that would be something that you incorporate, like this monk chanting would be something that you do in extreme metal. But, metal has always done that, right? It's like, it's been very open to incorporating, peripheral elements that you wouldn't necessarily think would fit, but, we just keep experimenting. It's open-mindedness, which is
it's
great.
like the guy in the documentary said at the beginning, he's like,
Sam Dunn is his name. Yeah.
Is that his name? Thank you. I've been trying to find his name. Sam Dunn. He said something to the effect of, how can there be so much diversity in what from the outside just sounds like noise? I would say metal is by far, not like no contest, by far the most diverse style of music. If you categorize everything as metal as one thing. Incredible the nuance that's in there.
Yeah.
So as an example, so we just listened to Insomnium. We've also got an example of one of Shred's favorite bands, Rivers of Nihil or Nihil.
Oh yeah.
However you pronounce that.
This is newer stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one's called Sand Baptism, and it has. I would certainly classify it.
I think this is where Al's know my
You
name.
both sent me clips.
Oh, we have two clips. Oh shit. Well, you got to show one. We got to do them both then, because the one I sent has the saxophone. And we were just talking about incorporating, different elements. This band is nuts. They're like extreme metal, and then all of a sudden there's a saxophone solo. You wouldn't think it would work, but somehow they pull it off. I really like the vibe there. It blindsides you. And like they have this whole 60s psychedelic visual component to the video. And it just shows that they're not afraid to demasculate themselves a little bit, because in metal, it's like hyper testosterone, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool to just be able to do a little saxophone. He's doing like, some moves and you just get into the vibe. It puts you in a whole different headspace. It's definitely not Anal Vomit, but it's pretty cool.
I think that's right. I mean, and that's where, I don't necessarily have a particular penchant for Ginger or Gojira. I haven't listened to a lot of Rivers
How
of Nihil.
dare you, Luke? How
Well,
dare
it's just,
you?
yeah, I mean, that I very well may like them. I just haven't spent much time with them. What I have heard is like doesn't. But what I love about them is they're all doing really experimental stuff. The problem with experimenting is, you know, occasionally you accidentally mix bleach and ammonia, and you know you put off a toxic cloud and you kill yourself. And so I feel like a lot of metal bands, when they try to experiment and they're not necessarily well versed in their craft, it just comes off really, really.
It takes time to
foul.
find your sound, you know.
It does.
I was reading about Slayer, and they were struggling to find their sound, and they kind of were repping like these, hair metal chord progressions in their first record, and then all of a sudden they hit it. They're like, okay, we got to go full dissonance. You know, that really reflected the lyrical content better, you know, and it just fit.
Yeah.
Like there was, some congruence there between the image the band was projecting and, you know, the sonic characteristics. Yeah. And sometimes that takes time to find, you know, you got to sort of experiment a little bit before you hit it.
No, that's so true. And, but it's like we were talking about that, the one Ginger song, something in Punishment or something, a few episodes ago. And it was like they have this like reggae section. And it's like, you know, for me, it was like, okay, well, that just took me out of it.
Yeah.
But I think one of our listeners at the time was like, dude, I freaking love that. And but again, that's what's so great about metal is it's got all of that.
Yeah, and you may have a great idea, but you just don't execute it quite right. But keep trying. Maybe you'll just figure it out, you know?
Yeah, totally. Now, so a band that has not figured it out for me, Chainsaw Dissection.
Oh. So
I don't even know.
Yeah, we got it.
Listen to it? All right.
Well, but I'm going to make it short. Okay, this that was short. It reminds me of someone actually in a mechanic shop trying to dissect their chainsaw. Like they got their grinder out and they're like, let's see if we can get into this thing.
Yeah, but so here's part of the reason why I had that
Chainsaw Massacre. It's got to be in that movie.
Yeah.
That's what you listen to while you're watching Texas Chainsaw. Leatherface.
Well, first of all, I would not recommend anybody read the lyrics to Chainsaw Massacre or
now everybody's going to read the lyrics,
Dissection.
Luke.
Yeah.
You just made everybody
go ahead and read it. Like you can't understand what he's saying because he's doing that grunting thing that I was talking about where it's just da, 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 da. But you read the lyrics, they're the most disgusting lyrics. Go ahead, go read them.
Corpses? They're worse than Cannibal Corpses? That's impossible.
In my opinion, yes.
Wow.
I'm not even going to say. We'll get banned from YouTube if we start talking about some of this. But let's just say it has to do with him doing bodily fluid things in murderous ways to people. I mean, it's just out of control. But so you heard that it's like Cannibal Corpse. You heard that sound. It's all just like one noise line. But now let's listen to a Meshuggah song, which again I would classify as very similar to what we just heard, except on a whole nother level of talent.
Dude, this song just broke the world when it came out. You know what the tempo is on this? The tempo is 230 beats per minute, and they're doing 16th note chugs. So
that
that's
like
level extremely fast. 16th notes at 230 beats per minute is if you're not a guitar player, maybe that doesn't make sense, but it's absurd.
That's another angle of extreme in extreme metal. I think we saw a couple different
Yes.
angles. I mean, you see extreme pushing the limits of speed, right? But you also extreme like the visuals on this one. And, you know, we mentioned corpse paint earlier, but kind of the idea of this like dead look, you know, is kind of pushing the image extreme as well, which you had bands that started precursors bands like doing extreme imagery as well. But metal always, again, is just pushing it to the next level.
Yeah, and Meshuggah, of course, you have to note their rhythmic innovation. Meshuggah, their syncopation, which it just means like offbeat, you know, accents. No one has come even close to Meshuggah in terms of just the way that they redefined rhythm in metal music. Like people have written books on Meshuggah's rhythm. It's become like a topic of scientific study, and that's very interesting because these are Swedish guys who, you know, just want to rock, and somehow they intuitively felt all of this very off-time stuff. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make was like their level of extreme is in the music, like, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but like when they, you know, they're gent chugging, it like when it would go higher and then come back down.
We should note that too, Luke. You just said it.
And they invented gent.
They invented gent. Degent.
Yeah, and it like they move so it literally felt like they were sliding up and down those notes as they're moving up and down on the guitar. I mean, they're so smooth, so they're so technically proficient. Now it can be jarring. I don't like to listen to Meshuggah very much.
They're actually bending. They're bending the note with their. Yeah, they're bending that note. That's what sounds like the slide.
So
like
as
E
they're
flat note that's bending, yeah.
So as they are picking ridiculous rhythms, they're bending that note.
Yeah, this E flat note. Yeah, it's amazing. And like I said, you know, you talk to the band. There's so many interviews on this. They're like, "What are you talking about? Weird rhythms? Like we just want to rock." You know, they just feel it. Apparently,
it's genetic.
So weird.
It's genetic.
Yeah, that has to be genetic. Yeah.
What else we got?
Well, okay. Well, so
Slayer. We didn't do Slayer.
So I don't have Slayer. Did you got Slayer?
I got a Slayer clip. Did you have something you wanted to share on the intro?
Slayer is very important. You know, they started in like the early 80s and kind of, you know, of course, in the same theme with Venom, but they just took it further, I think. Thrash, of course, like who's the originator of thrash metal? Maybe Slayer.
It's typically considered Slayer, yeah.
So they started a whole, you know, movement, which, you know, this is like that cross-pollination with metal and punk again that we're talking about.
Right.
Which I don't know what the specific punk bands would have been, like maybe Black Flag or something like that. Is that right?
Black Flag would definitely have been a big name.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the heavy, fast punk scene.
I also love Tom Araya's vocals. They're just they're so good. I didn't do Angel of Death, but Angel of Death has a great like Tom Araya vocal presentation. But this is Repentless. So Slayer, like the way that they, because we're talking about extreme metal, and what the extreme thing that they did was a lot of things, but the speed again, you know, that's incredibly fast. A song like Raining Blood is about 210 beats per minute, you know, which at the time, you know, there's a lot of 16th notes in there. That's extremely fast. Like that's pushing the boundaries of our capacity to perceive the notes. Like 200 beats per minute is about the limit. Once you get past that, people can't really discern what
sounds like one note.
Yeah,
the whole time.
It starts to
it's counterproductive.
Yeah, literally, if you get fast enough, the notes start to sound like one note, like you said, Pete. That's actually what happens. So there's a term for that. It's something to do with like beat something. But so
it's a bummer for these guys that can pick fast, because then people think they're picking slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know what else makes Slayer extreme. Obviously, they had a lot of demonic themes, Diablos in Musica, the devil in music. You know, they really focused on sort of this demonic imagery.
But I like this again because it's another good example. We're talking extreme metal, and I think that it's another good example of how there's so much variety and that it's got a different sound. It's extreme, yes, but it sounded very different than Insomnium. It sounded different than Meshuggah, even though Meshuggah was pushing extreme fast as well. This had like a totally different sound quality to it.
Yeah, it's more like punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you say the vocals are? It seems like the vocals are more punk influenced than
it's more like the Venom growl. It's not like a death metal grunt,
right?
It's an aggressive growl. One of the things that we kind of had on the outline to talk about was like the psychology of extreme metal, which we're not going to get to. But speaking of the diversity, there is a clip, Pete, called it's from so the band Hellhammer. They started as Hellhammer. They changed
Celtic Frost.
They changed their name to Celtic Frost, which I'm sure many of you know. But he made a great point about the diversity of metal. Let's listen to that clip.
With Celtic Frost, we thought that being extreme not only meant being extreme about the lyrical themes or the imagery you use, but also being extreme in the sense of the musical inspirations or the musical styles you try to incorporate. We liked Joy Division, Siouxsie and the Banshees, The Cure, Sisters of Mercy, Christian Death from America, 45 Grave, Roxy Music. There are many, many more shades and colors to darkness than just black.
Shades of darkness. Yes.
That's it. That is so it. And that's what extreme metal is exploring. So we've talked about like 6 or 7 different aspects of extreme metal, and there's probably 600 or 700, right?
Actually, Luke, there's probably about 666 amount of those, I would say.
I said 600 or 700. It's 666. We're right there. Right there.
Very much.
Yeah.
Shred knew exactly how many there were.
That's right. My estimate was not good enough for Lord Shred.
But guys, we need like another episode on this, because I feel like this is a great topic, because it represents like the very essence of the ethos of metal, which is like to push the limit, to go past the norms.
I was gonna, as we're rolling towards the end, I wanted to get a couple comments we had. One would be, because we talked a little bit about bass, and we had a comment from Matthew. A best metal bassist would be a great episode, but we could also talk about extreme metal bassists.
Hey, so my chat log is completely empty. I didn't think we had anybody watching.
You're in private chat. I'm sure you have to hit comments.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yes.
Gosh, dang it.
So we could talk about bassists in extreme metal, but we could also just talk about metal bassists. That would be a good topic for sure. And we're always open to topic suggestions. So send us messages at greatmetalpodcast@gmail.com if you have suggestions or comments on this episode, but suggestions for future ones as well.
Yes, absolutely.
For suggestions.
Hungry. But, bringing the bass into extreme metal, very, very good, Shred. We talked about,
are you at half mast right now?
Half mast. No, if I was at half mast, we'd be like popping into frame. But
that's extreme.
That's extreme.
That is extreme.
Man. But so that'd be a good episode. But
No, that would be great. So what I have labeled as clip 1, Pete, turns out is going to be our very final clip.
Okay.
We could definitely talk about some more elements of extreme. I think to do this real justice, maybe because, as we talked about, we're going to have guests on this season. This would be a great topic to bring on a guest from the extreme metal scene, because they'll be immersed in it. And whereas, for me personally, it's just like that. It's a peripheral thing. There's some extreme metal I like. That I don't live and breathe that.
Nobody does, though. Nobody likes all metal. That's the thing. It's too large of a genre.
Right. So getting somebody that has actually is doing this would be really, really cool. So, and Pete, I lied to you. It's not clip 1.
Yeah, I was going to say we already did that one.
Yeah. It's Extreme Metal Remains.
Okay.
And so this, I just want to leave everybody with this, because I mean, what's his name? The guy from the metal documentary?
Sam Dunn.
Sam
Dunn. Yeah. So this is what he had to say, and I think he is 100% spot on.
Extreme metal is where the spirit of the original metal underground remains alive and well. It explicitly resists the mainstream, and it pushes music to the edge. And for this reason, extreme metal may in fact be the most important subgenre in the story of metal's evolution.
That's really well said.
Yeah. I am
really well said.
I know that's kind of the outro, but I did want to make a comment. That's interesting though, because as I talked a little bit about, I think like the anti-hero becoming more of a mainstream thing. And if that's like a core part of a lot of the cultural lyricism and imagery around it, I wonder if what will metal do next to get away from that, right? I think extreme metal is going to always be pushing towards what's counterculture in a certain way, but
yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, all right, everybody. I'm going to get us going. So it was a pleasure. Season 2 off to a great start, and it's only going to get better from here. So until next time, everybody have a good one. And remember that the world ends with you. So make it metal.